Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where it's been since clear last year that we talked about what's come across our genealogy desk. This is an exciting year. We are going to start having Mondays with Myrt every other week. And that gives us a little bit more time between meetings to actually research. That's like a concept here. I don't know. All right. Well, I hope everyone is doing well. Let's see who's out there. Linda Stufflebeans in Arizona trying to keep warm. Our leaf, our regular gal in Norway, is expecting 2 feet of snow, Linda, up there. And so you keep warm for and in behalf of our leave. Hillary's here. Melinda's out there on the YouTube side, and thanks to her and to Sherry for running the YouTube side. I appreciate that. Randy's in the wings today. No rain for 6 months. I don't know. Hi, Melissa, the archive lady. Cold and snowy. Snow flying, but not sticking. 37. Well, Melinda's letting us know it was 70 yesterday. Boy, that's like that jerks you around when it's that big a difference day over day. Karen's out there in southern Oregon. It's been raining, but you'll get a break. We've had a lot of rain the last week up here on Guimas Island in the Pacific Northwest. Lynn Tenney, hi. I haven't talked to you for a while. Like to hang out with you in various institutes where we really get put through the ringer in the education department. And folks, those of you who are new at Mondays with Myrt, it's about conversation, and that's why I'm spending the time acknowledging who's here, because I would like your feedback. Those of you that are attending on the YouTube side, you're part of this conversation, and we'd like to know what you're thinking about. Yes, there will be a giveaway tool today. Remember the hashtag Mondays with Myrt. You don't have to do upper and lowercase letters like old Myrt did right there. I just did it for ease of interpretation when I'm talking about it. And Deb says hello from Chile. Oh, Chile, Los Angeles. Hi, Karen. Hi, John. I don't know what I'd do if you weren't out there, John, although 27 degrees, put on an extra quilt, boy. Yeah, he got his hashtag in. Sherry, thank you for doing that. Let's see who we've got. Flo from Oregon. Hi, Janet. Betty Lou is here. It's cold in the middle of Arkansas. Yeah. Hi, Flo. Let's see. Hi, Deb Andrew. All right. Can't say hello to everybody. There's 453 million of you out there. A few people I haven't seen before. I don't think I've seen you, Philip. Welcome. Cindy Bray's here. I don't know. So what are we going to do? So we are going to be doing Mondays with Myrt, and then take a 15-minute break, go to a different video. It's already pre-programmed. I'll explain more about book club at the end of Mondays with Myrt. But let me pull up our panelists and pull them up on stage. We have our guy in the great state of Canada, Randy Seaver. He's here today. Ellen is here visiting. I hear that Trudeau is resigning today.
Oh, you know more than me.
Well, you're on vacation, so what can I tell you? Dan, congratulations, Dan. Your genealogy assistant program that what do we call it? An add-on to Chrome.
Yep.
Has caught the attention of Lisa Louise Cook, and it was published in Family Tree magazine. Bravo on you. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. My cousin Dave is here. And we had trouble with his mic, and he said his excuse was that his ancestors who lived in that house, it's in his background graphic, they didn't have electronics like this. What can I tell?
Exactly. Yeah.
Hillary's going to be my co-host today. And Pat Kuhn is here today. She is a hand or needlework extraordinaire, a needle worker, and a good genealogist too. Good to see you again, Pat.
Hi.
And let's see, we got everybody. Yeah, we've got one more person, and this is a good segue here. Hillary, let's keep let's move everybody else to the wings, and I will pull up our special guest today, Alex Ferretti. And yeah, there we go. Alex, you are busy with Reclaim the Records. And aside from everything else you do in your life, uh, let me first, before we talk about the latest breakthrough at Reclaim the Records, tell me a little bit about what the heck you do.
Sure. So I am a New York City-based genealogist, and I specialize in Italian research, largely people with dual citizenship matters. And I also am a specialist in immigration research, largely Italian immigration, but really all 20th century immigration. And most of my time I spend doing lots of advocacy efforts. So I lead the advocacy committee of the Association of Professional Genealogists. And we are constantly advocating for more funding for the National Archives and various things like that. And I've also been a director of Reclaim the Records for the last, 6 or 7 years now. And we are a nonprofit that basically seeks to wrangle public records out of the government, either through coordination, ideally, or litigation, if not. And we could just discuss what we did with the VA in the last couple of years. And that brings us to BIRLS.
So what is the BIRLS death file?
Okay, so I, just to take a step back, the VA has millions of boxes of records, and they are all essentially inaccessible, or they have been historically inaccessible to genealogists.
And let me just clarify for our international, we are a global community. We've got Hillary from Wales with English research. The VA stands for the Veterans Administration. And that is what we're talking about, records at the VA, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And technically, it is the Department of Veterans Affairs. It was the Veterans Administration historically. At some point, they rebranded. I forget when.
I think you're right.
Which I just Googled to make sure.
Yes.
Because it was the Veterans Administration for a long time. And then in, I don't know, probably 30 years ago or whatever, they changed it. But anyway, the Veterans Administration was formed in the early 20th century and had records of all the different benefits that were paid to veterans. So I think, at least for the American genealogists, we're all pretty familiar with Civil War pension files. And we probably say that if we're researching someone who lived in the Civil War era, the Civil War pension file is probably the best record you'd ever find for someone from that time period. They're often 100 pages long. They have descriptions and letters and copies of vital records. And like, if you get a Civil War pension file, that is like the thing to get. Well, the Civil War pensions don't really stop. And all the veterans who served after the Civil War have similar kinds of records. And of course, there's 25 million different laws that change who's eligible for this and that. But broadly, if you're a veteran post-1860, you were entitled to benefits. And to get those benefits, there'd be a ream of paperwork generated. And all those paperwork, much of that paperwork was saved. And BIRLS is a way to access that paperwork, is the short answer.
All right. And what we're talking about, for those of you that are new to this kind of research, because Dear Myrtle followers, although I have a lot of very experienced researchers following us, we try to focus on beginning concepts. And so we normally, as beginners, look at birth, marriage, and death records, and then census records. And then we move into things like pension files, which would be at the National Archives.
Usually.
But that's different from what you're talking about with the Veterans Affairs. You can tell how long I've been doing genealogy if I called it administration. But anyway, this is a whole different department of the government. And you're right, these records are not one that a typical beginning genealogist would even know to look at. That's why I wanted you to come talk to us.
Now, I would say that an experienced genealogist wouldn't know to get these, because up until, and even ignoring Reclaim the Records work, up until about a year or two ago, the VA was so disorganized, there was no way to get these records. I've been working on a project simultaneous to the whole BIRLS thing for the last couple of years, trying to figure out how to get these things. And basically, Congress has been on the VA so much to get their records management organized that they finally have a bit of a workflow in the last, let's say, 5 years to even process requests for veterans who want their own file, let alone when I used to give me this one from 100 years ago. So, like, technically, if you were well-resourced and hired an attorney and sued the VA in 1997, you could have gotten these files. But unless you were doing that, which nobody was doing back then, let alone now for the most part, they were functionally inaccessible, even though there were literally over 1 million cubic feet of historic records about veterans.
Wow.
So maybe just to give a brief history of what we're actually talking about.
Okay.
So there were, I have not, one of the things that I've not taken the time to do is study all the different laws, because every veteran was different laws were passed by different Congresses that were entitling different veterans to different benefits. And when you're looking at stuff like the Civil War or the War of 1812, this is always a strategy where you want to research the laws that were impacting the people, because you can learn stuff. Congress passes a law in 1847, and I'm making this up, that says veterans who serve between 97 and 201 days who were over the age of 26 were entitled to X. So if X is in the pension file, you can say, okay, well, he was this age and he served for this long. You can do all this indirect analysis. You could do the exact same thing with these kinds of files, but I haven't bothered doing any of that because they're already so detailed. You don't even really need to be doing this circuitous analysis, because there's just so much documentation that's giving direct evidence in the file, just because it's a modern record as opposed to something from 1812.
Okay. So now we're moving into the BIRLS.
Yeah. So basically, when the VA was created in the 20s and 30s, they had a card index of all of the different kinds of files that each veteran might have. And the primary file was called a C file, which was their benefits file, their pension file, basically the Civil War pension, but it's called a C file. And there were other kinds of records that often weren't kept. World War I bonus-related records and some kind of insurance things and various stuff. And all these different files were on this card index. And about 6 years ago, Family Search, in conjunction with Reclaim the Records, digitized this card index called the Veterans Affairs Master Index. And this has been on Family Search for a while now. And it indexes all the World War I era soldiers who were receiving benefits from the VA through the 1930s. There was a second series of this card index that is not online for the World War II era soldiers, which is at the National Archives in St. Louis. In 1971, the VA was trying to become modern and realized that they could automate this. So they retired the two card indexes and created BIRLS, which was the modern computerized index to the VA's files. So every veteran who came across the VA's desk from 1971 to present was put into BIRLS, because that was their new modern computer system. So if you were a veteran who served in World War I and died in 1940 with no children, you likely wouldn't be in BIRLS because your benefits would have ceased in 1940. If you served in World War I, but lived to 1987 because you were really long-lived, you'd probably be in BIRLS because you were getting benefits in the 70s and 80s and were alive. If you died in 1950, but your widow was much younger and was collecting benefits till the 70s, you could be in BIRLS because the file was still active. And there's 10 million different reasons why a file could have been active. But if it was active, it's in BIRLS.
So I have a question. My father served in World War II. He was in the Army. His records were part of those that were damaged in the fire, and they have not retrieved them, have not apparently been able to retrieve them. He was a doctor. Served in the army as a physician, and he didn't get VA benefits because when he came home, he set up his practice. Is it likely that I'd find something for my father that might? I mean, I'm hoping.
So
Other than the fact that I have his ID card, that's the only real proof that I've got. I don't have his GD-214 to prove that he actually served.
So almost everybody has some kind of file with the VA.
Okay.
It's rare that you don't get anything. Now, I have this conversation a lot. So first of all, the most important thing to emphasize here, the fire that you're talking about had nothing to do with the VA.
Right.
Myrtle, I mean,
but it was the documenting his service. I realize.
Yeah.
Now there's a potential other record set for
and
me.
that's why this is so amazing.
Yeah.
Because everybody always says, oh, my file's burned in the fire. Except there's this separate record set that nobody really knew about. So anybody who's watching who says, oh, Nara said my file's burned, that's great, and I'm sure it's correct, but that's unrelated to what we're talking about today.
Exactly my hope, yes.
We're not in the same repository.
Right.
And if veterans were claiming benefits before 73, which they probably were, that means their proof of military service had not burned at the time of them making the claim, which means records from their burned file will have likely made their way into the VA file because they had to prove their service. Now, it won't be the whole 200-page file, but you'll often find photostats of the induction papers, of the discharge, of the DD-214. Every now and then you'll see pictures. I've seen about 4 with pictures. The pictures are rare.
Yeah.
But even for later veterans, like Vietnam era, sometimes they just take the entire military personnel file and throw it in the VA file. I got a 2,000-page file last week. It's a Vietnam veteran, so it's not the era that most genealogists are researching. But if your uncle served in Vietnam and you get request a file or whatever, you might get 1,000 or 2,000 pages. And even for World War I, World War II era, the records are often hundreds of pages long. If I get a 500-page World War I or II era file, it's not particularly noteworthy. It's exciting.
Not surprising.
Sure. Wow. But like that's, I'd say the average is probably about 200 pages. Sometimes I get a file and it's 25. If you're someone who's kind of like your father, where they were relatively well off, they didn't really need the $17 a month or whatever they get from the pension, maybe they didn't bother with the VA. But when everybody first left the army, they usually weren't well off yet, which means there was almost always a claim opened in the 40s or 50s, or if it's World War II era. So if your father truly had no file, I'd be surprised. And I can quantify this a little bit because of the VA Master Index cards, I have done a quick survey. Now, if you truly never interacted with the VA ever, you wouldn't have a card. But almost everyone has a card who served because even if there's not a C file, there'd be life insurance policies that were given to them or the World War I bonus that everybody got. So it's technically possible to not be in the index. It is not a literal exhaustive index to soldiers, but it's very close. And I can't give you a number on how many, but it's very rare where I don't find a file in this index.
Wow.
Of the index cards of the World War I era, I did a sample. 90% of the cards had a C file indexed on there. For the World War II era, these are at NARA. They're not publicly accessible, but I asked NARA to do a survey for me, and they said 84% of the cards they looked at had a C number. So I would say that there's roughly a 75 to 80% chance that any given World War II soldier has a file. Not to mention, these cards are retired in 1971. It's always possible that after 71, a claim was opened up for the first time. So maybe in 1947, your father was in perfect health, didn't want to deal with the VA. But then in 1977, his friend said, hey, you fill out this form and you'll get $20 a week. And your father was retired and bored and said, okay, why not? I got $20 a week. And he created the claim in 1977. And he's in BIRLS, but doesn't have a VA Master Index card because his claim was created after that index. So that 84% of people is actually not even a high end because if your claim was just opened after 71, you might only be in BIRLS. So you have to searching all these different databases. And the short answer is almost everyone has some kind of file.
All right. So now let me, Melinda's one of our panelists. She's working the YouTube side. I think we've answered her question somewhat. For instance, a compiled military service record for my father is unavailable. That's part of the National Archives. But BIRLS might have something, especially since my father told me that on discharge there was some kind of a bonus paid. And he used it. He was stateside practicing neurology in New York and also in New Jersey at Army hospitals. And he used that bonus to buy a car to take himself, his spouse, who is his first wife, and their one child across country to Seattle. So just by benefit of that he received a bonus, the inference is, yes, he was legitimate. He did actually serve honorably and was honorably discharged because he received that benefit. So these are the kinds of inferences we have to draw when we're looking at whatever paperwork has survived.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, I do want to say something about Melinda's question quickly.
Yes.
Because the CMSR is not the OMPF. Lots of letters here.
OMPF.
The compiled military service record is what exists for veterans of the 19th century. And they were created after the war was done by clerks in the War Department, or I guess the War Department.
I think it was.
And they went through all the muster rolls and because the records for the 19th century wars were not organized by veteran. But they realized that they needed a record of every veteran. So they retroactively went through the muster rolls, the enlistment records, and all the things that were organized by unit, by location, by battle, by whatever, and then created timelines of all the different veteran services.
Yes.
And those run through the 1800s. Civil War has them. I'm not sure if the later wars have them. If like the Mexican, the Spanish American War. I have no idea.
Philippine, Spanish American.
Yeah, I forget where it ends exactly. But starting for World War I, and again, maybe the Spanish American, those 1890s wars, I forget what existed.
I hear you.
But for World War I and later, they move on to the official military personnel file, where they're from the beginning having a file for every veteran. CSMRs never burn because those have been in the National Archives for a long time. But what I will say, though, is that the VA took, the files there start in the 20s and 30s. Occasionally, there are Civil War and 1800s era war soldiers whose claims were still active in the 20s and 30s. If that was the case, their file was not given to NARA as part of the Civil War pension files, and it became a C file with the VA. If the soldier died in 1912 and the wife died in 1950 because she was much younger or whatever, if it's a Civil War pension, it could have been an active XC file into the 1940s or 50s. And it's going to be in the exact same boxes with these World War II era files. So there are a number of Civil War pensions that you can't get at NARA that you have to get through the VA. And some of those might even be in BIRLS. Otherwise, they'd be in this VA Master Index. I got a Civil War pension from the VA a few weeks ago.
Amazing. Well, I belong to Daughters of Union Veterans, and we have still, I think, one or two real daughters left that are receiving benefits from the Civil War. Exactly. They're like 99, but yeah.
Right. So their XC file, like their father or whoever, whatever, I guess their father's Civil War pension file became an XC file 100 years ago, and now it's still with the VA.
Yeah, totally. It's all a matter of the timeline and who lived how long. So Monique is saying she saw this information that Reclaim the Records has now on their own website and on Family Search, this new BIRLS, BIRLS database. And she sent for her dad's death file last week. Let us know, Monique, when you get it, because we'd like to see some sample pages. We could have you as a guest, Monique. And let's see, Kim says she also requested her father-in-law's file last week. It was very easy to do this. So what is the process? Let me pull this up. So they would be looking at.
Can I just do a screen share of the website and do like a live demo?
Oh,
Would that be
sure,
better?
sure. Let me pull you up. We'll change our parameters here, and we'll make yours full screen. Okay. So let's see what the file looks like.
So I'm gonna. Well, okay. So, do we
You
want?
just closed
Yeah.
your.
Do we want to? Do we want me to show some example files or show the BIRLS website? Because I can do either.
I can. You can tell me where to go on the BIRLS website.
Because
I'm there.
I think I think it might be easiest if I just do a 90-second demo of the website
Okay,
myself.
so go back and do
Okay.
present, and we'll set that up. Folks, life is very interesting when we consider that we can tune in from all over the world and make these connections. Okay, you're back. All right.
So we all see the screen?
Yeah, and I'll put the link up.
So if you go to,
yep,
sorry.
We can all see it. It's full screen.
Great. So anyone can go to birls.org, and we do have some sample images of kinds of things. These are largely from records that I got.
Yes.
We have my cousin Norman's dental records that were all his teeth, whatever.
Yeah.
We have my aunt's grandfather. This is just, questionnaires. Where were you born? What is your physical description? Where did you enlist? Things like that.
Yes.
We have records of education. This is my uncle. Okay, it's not loading up properly. There we go. My uncle got he went to law school on the GI Bill, and there's discussion of the payments to his university.
Wow.
And, I could spend a whole hour showing these kinds of things because there's just an insane amount of documentation. And this is my cousin Rosario, who the story was that he got kicked out of the army. Well, it turns out he didn't get kicked out of the army. He had some really disgusting medical conditions that made him get kicked out. There was a lot of discussion about certain organs of his that you don't want to hear about in this podcast.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah. But it just records, who are your employers, who are your doctors, who are your relatives, who are your parents, who are your siblings. And every file is different because whatever benefit this person wanted required different paperwork. So you may get a copy of this person's marriage license, or you might not. You might get what are your parents' names and date of birth, or you might not. You might get what are your siblings and their addresses, or you might not. This is someone who is in a common law marriage. And because they were trying to get spousal benefits, they had to prove they were married under the laws that satisfied how the pension system worked. So there are like 10 or 15 pages of depositions where they're deposing the wife, asking all of these questions about how long they've been together and the children they have and where they live. And it just goes on and on. And again, I don't want to bog this down too long because I could spend literally an hour showing examples of things. But if we just do a search for, I don't know.
Look for my dad. I just looked him up. He's in there.
Okay. I was going to do Reagan because I just requested Reagan's file, but we'll do your father. What's his name?
Okay. Glenn, Glen, S, like Sam, Player, Player.
Great. Now, by default, we have the sound-alike search check to do that. I usually uncheck it because I usually know the person's name. Sure enough, we find one result, and you can click to expand their details. And again, this is just an index, so the information we have is going to be only what was input into the computer, possibly 50 years ago.
Right.
So a name, a date of birth, a date of death. There will usually be enlistment dates, but not always. Here, this is clearly wrong because it says he enlisted on his first birthday. That is obviously not correct. And we actually did flag it having a possible data issue. Whatever the VA gave us is what we posted. So obviously it's wrong.
But there's something there.
Right. So then we get his social. I actually usually search by social if possible. Because
I recognize that social. And I recognize his birth date and his death date. So that is for my dad.
So then what you can do is we can submit this FOIA request automatically. And there's a couple of screens if you want to add in some information, such as if you know their service number.
I do know a service number,
Really what is what they really need is the XC number, which is that actual file number that corresponds to the C file, which if you were to want, would either be in records that you happen to have lying around or more likely on the VA Master Index card. So you could write to the National Archives in St. Louis and ask for the copy of the card based on this veteran and his name and date of birth. And then you can get the number and give it to them, but that's not required. I mean, in theory, the VA should be searching on their own. Now, did you already request it yourself?
No, I just pulled it up on my other screen. I'm trying not to cry. I'm so excited.
So when you do this, then you can give your address, your information, because they're going to mail you a CD, so you have to give them your address and everything.
Okay.
There's some terms and conditions, basically just saying that these files have personal information. There's a chance your father could have had syphilis, and it could be in the file, and you could be learning your father had syphilis. And we really want to make this stuff clear because there's a lot of discussion about really personal things in these files. And because they're deceased, the VA can release them. But we just want to make clear what we're requesting. So there is a whole disclaimer. The VA does not charge for these files. Under some circumstances, technically they could. But they likely wouldn't. If they blow the 30-day statutory deadline, then they can't for the most part. But that's all just in the terms and conditions.
Okay, statutory deadline. They're supposed to respond within 30 days?
30 business days, yes.
Business days, okay.
The VA, because they've gotten so much congressional scrutiny lately, they've gotten pretty good at responding to requests quickly. They usually are not going to hit 30 business days, but they're going to, within 1 to 3 months, you should get a response.
Okay, so Betty Lou's saying, do you have to wait 72 years since the veteran's discharged? That is what's happening or hampering her from getting her grandfather's records.
So I have a couple of thoughts about that. Give me 10 seconds just to finish this thread.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I'm good at interrupting.
So once you do that, you have to e-sign. The VA requires a signature, so we can do an electronic signature like this. We save it. We hit the next step. You want me to request it for you? You can do your own request as well.
No, I'll do it. I'll do it. No problem.
So normally I would say yes, FOIA the file. I won't, but everybody else would FOIA the file.
Yeah.
Then you'll get an email confirmation from us saying, Reclaim the Records has made this FOIA request on your behalf. If you want to donate, cough, cough, here's a link. And then you will get a response from the VA.
Okay.
So that is the majority of how the website operates. Now I want to address, can you show her question again?
Yeah. And Betty Lou, I think you have Italian research. You need to pay attention to Alec. You probably already know him for that level of experience and expertise.
So there's a couple of things happening here. So 72 years is the statutory deadline for the census to become public. Congress, there was originally an agreement between NARA and the Commerce Department that was codified by Congress maybe in the 60s or 70s that says that the census becomes public in 72 years. What I think you're mixing it up with is the retention for the OMPF, those military personnel files, which is 62 years. So by agreement between NARA and the Department of Defense, after 62 years from the date of discharge, a veteran's OMPF becomes publicly available in the National Archives reading room. So I can go to the National Archives, the NPRC, the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis and say, hey, I want to see this veteran who was discharged 63 years ago. And they'd say, okay, great. We're going to pull the file and give it to you on the desk. Or I can make a request for the file remotely and they'd charge me a fee sometimes and then give me the file. If the file is less than 62 years from discharge, so anyone who was discharged in 1962 and later, that record is not publicly available in a reading room. It does not mean that you can't get it. The problem is, and I've actually had meetings with the National Archives about this, and this is going to get a bit of a tangent, so I'm going to try to keep this somewhat condensed and not go in a whole thing. But under the Freedom of Information Act, when a person dies, their rights to privacy are generally extinguished. So if someone has a VA file or a USCIS file or a State Department file or whatever agency it is, when they're dead, you can make a FOIA request and say, this person is dead, give me their file. Separate from that, agencies and NARA voluntarily contract to transfer records from an agency's custody to the National Archives custody, where they have an explicit framework to make records available in reading rooms for you. So the 62 years only means that NARA will voluntarily give the record to you in a reading room. NARA and the DoD cannot contract out of FOIA. So because your grandfather, I assume, is long deceased, you can, as a matter of law, make a FOIA request to the agency that owns your grandfather's OMPF, which would be the DoD. The problem is that the DoD has no framework to do this. Much like the VA until a couple of years ago just took the request you'd send them and throw them in the trash, the DoD also doesn't really process these requests properly. So if you were to hire a lawyer, you could sue the DoD, and a U.S. attorney would slap the VA on the forehead, and they'd give you the DoD on the forehead, and they'd give you your file. The problem is that most people don't have the resources to hire an attorney. So it's in this limbo. And I've been having meetings as part of APG's advocacy work with the National Archives, because I'm trying to work on a framework where genealogists can request these more modern records. And NARA has kind of shrugged it off, saying, oh, who wants those records anyway? But that's not true, because someone like you're describing, who I'm guessing may have been a career veteran if he was being discharged that late, but maybe not. Maybe you're just on the younger side. But you're right, because you should be able to FOIA that record. But right now, there's no way to do it. If you email me, I will try to help you, because in theory, we can fight with them and try to, them being the DoD, whatever military component, and possibly try to get the file. But it's a whole thing.
So Betty Lou just used BIRLS and says it only lists his Korean War records, not his WW2. I've been trying to also type in the chat, folks, what DoD, Department of Defense, FOIA is Freedom of Information Act. Excuse my typo there.
Thank you.
Yeah. In other words, Betty, you're going to become a good friend of Alex and vice versa. It'll get resolved.
So quickly though, you'd want to FOIA his file, because that index, the VA indexed whatever data points they saw. So sometimes you will see multiple, what's the word? If the veteran was enlisted and discharged multiple times, I believe the database can handle up to 3 different bouts of service. For whatever reason, they just didn't input your World War II thing. It means that some technician in the 1980s didn't enter it. Doesn't really
close the file after the first one and went on to the next.
But now, what could be the case is there could be 2 separate files. Sometimes veterans had multiple files opened up by mistake. But basically, FOIA what you're looking at in BIRLS, you'll get something, and then you go from there and see what happened.
All right, we have a point of information request from Monta. What is the veteran number you said that's helpful to have?
Yeah.
The C number?
So what I can do right now, I want to go back to sharing some of my slides, because I can show examples of what I'm talking about.
And while you do that, Ellen is saying, this is amazing. She's Canadian. She doesn't have a lot of possible records, but she's getting the point how very valuable this is. And you don't, I'm going to say it's a crapshoot, but I don't mean crap. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get till you get what you get. Okay, I'll share screen, pull that up full. Okay.
So this is from the VA Master Index that is on Family Search.
Oh, XC file.
So what happened was, when the veteran was given a C file, and then a claims number, and then when the veteran died, it was denoted X, as in deceased.
And
that was how the VA knew to retire the file and say, okay, the person's dead now. So C and X is really the same thing. You can learn a little bit about the file from this. Like in this case, there probably wasn't an X, because we see the XC number is marked as one thing, we can assume that there actually wasn't a claim opened up until Harry died, because he would have had a C number written in during his lifetime, whereas here it's just the XC stamp. Other times they actually will write in the X when the person died, like this one. So Joseph had a C file from when he was alive, and then he died in the 60s, and then it became an XC file.
You can see, folks, this guy is a virtual fountain of information. Let me just catch up with some of the comments from the community. Betty Lou said she did just use BIRLS. Look, okay, we got that one. But he served as a reservist in Korea, so there was a period of time between the two service periods. And then let me also bring in some other comments here. Just a second. Okay, Miriam, my writing accountability partner, as someone who works in public disclosure for government records, I can assure you that in many cases, the bureaucracy has to do with 1, overwhelming workloads, 2, not enough staff, 3, constantly having to learn new upgraded software, 4, dealing with so much paperwork and not having the money, staff, time, or equipment to digitize, 5, trained staff retiring or off-staffing. We're losing so much institutional knowledge. She continues. Apparently that you hit her hot button here. And having to take time to train new staff. And then there are the litigious cases taking up so much of her time that we can't get to the ordinary jobs. I've had requests that took me over 5 years to complete. And she is a very responsible person. I know from the subtleties of crafting citations with her, how she's a smart cookie.
Mm-hmm. The reason the VA has gotten so better at this is because they've gotten some congressional focus, and that there actually been bills that have been passed to give the VA resources to properly do this kind of thing.
Yeah. Reclaim the records is the antithesis of government bureaucracy. Your system is quick and simple. Yeah, now we just have to wait for the government response. What happens if they know they have a file, but they can't get it to you within the 30 days?
So FOIA deadlines are largely pretend.
Okay.
No agency really ever responds in 30 business days unless it's a very, very small agency. NOAA might get 6 requests a year. Maybe they're responding on time. These big A's, the ones that have genealogical records, USCIS, the State Department, they take years. The State Department right now has a 4 to 6 year backlog. So to get anything is going to be 4 to 6 years. USCIS is, I'd say, 1 to 4 years. The VA is, because they have this new congressional bill that was giving them money and there's resources and they're digitizing things, it actually isn't that bad. Basically, you're going to get a response, hopefully, in 1 to 3 months, and that's what it is. Technically, if you're on a mission for this file, on day 30, you can hire a lawyer and sue him. It's not really worth it, but it is technically your legal right.
Okay.
But the VA is, they in about 10 years ago, they opened up a whole new facility, and there's no reason to sue them, but technically you could on day 31. They are responding to things. Now, the bigger problem,
Speaking as a document retrieval expert, Miriam says those pretend deadlines are in fact a reality.
Exactly.
And Monta says Miriam's hot button is hers too. She worked in government, does not deserve getting dissed as much as people will do. Thanks to Miriam for explaining things. Yeah, we're all human, and when they don't replace somebody that has the experience, like if Alex were out of this and into something else, think of what's in his brain we haven't even talked to him about. All right, Alex, anything else on BIRLS before we go? I know there's many more subtopics.
Well, I do need 3 minutes because I do want to talk about the responses that we're going to get.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to quickly show, because I already have it queued up. Can you? Yeah. This is the World War II era. So the World War I era is on Family Search. World War II era was, first of all, a terrible microfilming. So the quality is awful. Yeah. But because these are more modern records, they're not online. So you have to email National Archives in St. Louis, ask them for this card. They'll send it to you in usually a week or so for free. Sometimes I can't even read the C number because the quality is so bad. Yeah. Like this.
Oh my gosh.
I can at least confirm that there is a C file, and I can somewhat make out the number.
Yeah.
But the C number up top is what you want to be giving to the VA if possible. You don't need to, but it's always ideal.
It might help, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, and I forget how many slides I have for this. It's a ton.
Are you speaking at Roots Tech?
Yes, they'll be at Roots. Not about this. Although I
no.
still blame them. I tried. Okay, so the VA, they will often, and I'm going to say maybe even usually, instead of finding the file, give you some kind of rejection letter. They'll say, we looked at our holdings and found nothing available, blah, 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 blah. And there's a couple different letters they send out, but the long and short of it is they send out letters saying there's no record like half the time, even though there actually is a record. And you have to appeal it. And the problem is that I don't really know the problem. All I know is that I could list out 20 different things the VA does in their responses that are ranging from incorrect to inconceivable.
Oh my gosh.
I actually once had the most egregious thing that ever happened. The VA once changed a living widow claimant's address to mine because I'd FOIA'd the file. It was of a client, but the grandma was still alive and collecting benefits. I got a letter 3 months later about cessation of benefits because some clerk just saw my request and said, oh, the veteran must have moved. And they made the living widow's address my address. And I had to email the VA privacy officer saying, oh my God, fix this now because I'm getting like important correspondence for this living widow who needs her money. That was a one-time thing. I wouldn't assume that's going to happen, but they do weird things. I don't know.
Human error. Yes.
Right. But the most common response is that they come back and say, we searched our records. There's nothing on file. Go to the National Archives, which is just wrong because the National Archives doesn't have most XC files. There's actually a handful they do have, some of the older ones. But when you get a lot of like what you're seeing on the screen, you ignore it because what you have to do instead is write a FOIA appeal to the VA's Office of General Counsel. And I could spend an hour going into all the different denials you're going to get, but it doesn't really matter. Because if they give you any kind of denial that says we don't have a file, the response is always the same. You email the VA's Office of General Counsel and you submit a FOIA appeal where you send them the letter and the control number and you say, this is wrong. There's a file. Here's the VA Master Index card, if you can. Please redo the search. Now, sometimes there actually isn't a file because of various circumstances. But as I've been saying this whole time, there's usually a file. So sometimes the file is just missing, but they actually do have it. They just can't locate it. Sometimes they just didn't search properly. Sometimes what I think is happening is they like find the file in their internal system, retrieve it from the offsite place, and it just doesn't show up fast enough. And they want to get it off their desk. And they say, oh, no, we don't have a file. And they mean it's not on my desk, so I can't give it to you. Even though they actually do have a file and they know where it is, and they just want to get it off their desk, or there might be some metric where they're being paid based on how quickly they can close out cases or something. We don't know. But they're closing out requests they shouldn't, and you have to appeal. And I can provide the email address to do that.
All right. You need 2 email addresses. If you could type them in comments on the left. Oh, wait. You'll need to put them under private chat because you cannot do a regular comment. You're a guest here, not one of my moderators. So on the right side of the StreamYard, go to private chat. Give us that email address if you would, sir. And I will now share that.
So I just gave the National Archives email address for the card requests.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll put that out. And then we also... There's a couple of folks that want to, they've already copied your address. I hope that's your current address. But they would like to hire you. And I don't normally broker this, but we are spotlighting your work to hire you for your expertise in Italian research. So we need your communication.
Oh, sure.
Whatever, if you would provide that. And what we will do there, okay, here's the appeals for the freedom of information that he just shared. Thank you. And wow, what a morning we've had. You could tell we could spend hours talking to this fellow. I appreciate it. Okay, he's going to give us here it is. Ancestor archivist. Okay. And that's excellent.
I
right.
have other guests to do and other things to do, but yes, I'm happy. Yeah, there's so
Thank
much
you.
to talk about that it just
I
goes
know.
on.
I know. Alex, thank you for joining me this morning. Um, the panelists are saying wonderful job, good job doing this. This was like a quick overview, folks, of what is possible for those of us that are searching for more information about our ancestors who may have served in the U.S. military. Now, I like that my example of my dad's was kind of odd, but we will pursue that. And when I get the answers in a couple of weeks or months or whatever, I'll share that with you all so we can see. Yes, Karen saying, do you do legacy family tree webinars? Yes, you
So
do.
I just put the link in the private chat. I was
Yes, I'll
about
pull it
to ask
up.
you to transfer. So this is the link to my XC Files talk. I gave this talk a couple months ago before BIRLS as our database launched. So
Yeah.
I tease that we're going to be doing this thing, but I don't actually talk about the request portal. But other than that, all the XC file discussion is the same.
Yeah. All right. So what we've got, folks, now, and I'm going to share my screen, and then we need to move to our next topic. Oh,
Sorry.
gosh. No, it's perfectly A-okay. This is Randy's experience with it. He sent the link already out to the group. The beneficiary identification records locator subsystem. That's what BIRLS stands for. And one of the cool things about following along with Randy is he explains step by step a process that he goes through. So it's one thing when we have the absolute expert. I mean, we've really covered this topic well today in our short period of time because we have Alex here, right? You can see his experience with this kind of research. But we also have our good buddy, Randy, one of our own that we communicate with frequently. And he's saying he's using this database. Randy, let me pull you up. Did you receive anything yet? I haven't looked at this blog post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did it. It was simple. It was easy. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alec. Excellent. And I ordered my father's, who was World War II, and my grandfather's, who was World War I. But neither of them had any. There was only a death date that was right on the form.
Yes.
Or on the result,
Yeah.
At BIRLS. Now, I don't know what I'm going to get. I did this almost 2 weeks ago, and so got another couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so you're likely to be able to speak from your own research before I can.
Yeah.
I'm now very excited to use this database. Alec, thank you very much. I know you lead a busy life. You're welcome to come join us anytime. Stay with us. If you need to go, I understand that as well. You wanted to say something, I can tell.
No. I was going to just thank you. No, I do want to say, but I really should go because I have 6 emails and so many things happening. And actually, I have a FOIA request from the VA and a letter from the National Archives in St. Louis to respond to. And
good.
Yes, I need to get on with my day.
Keep up the good work. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye. Wow. Hillary, can you bring everyone up on the panel? This was an extraordinary conversation to have had with Alex this morning.
Yep.
So I want to ask the panelists. Randy submitted. I'm going to be submitting. Has anyone else done this kind of research, or can you see a reason for doing it? Hillary, I don't know that you're going to be using this kind of a database since you're largely from, your ancestors are from England. You do have part of your family that came over, but I don't know if you're actively researching. Jump in here, panelists, and tell me what you're thinking.
I have sent a few years ago. This is the file that I got from my husband.
Oh, okay.
He served in the Air Force during Vietnam era. He was in Thailand. There's even a copy of a commendation medal that he got.
Mm-hmm.
The information. I mean, some of the pages are you have his.
See? And you thought you were just going to be opinionated, and you actually had something relevant.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I just yeah, this I think was cool. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Force Commendation Medal to Francis J. Kuhn Jr.
That's incredible.
Sergeant Francis J. Kuhn Jr. distinguished himself by meritorious service as an electronic communications and cryptographic equipment systems repairman.
Wonderful.
It just,
that is just awesome. So thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. Did you get that from the VA or did you get that from the National Personnel Record Center in St. Louis?
I got it from the National Personnel Record Center in St. Louis.
Okay. And they're, like Alex said, it could possibly have a copy of it over. Yeah, she's even still got the envelope. Melinda, what you made a comment. Let's see what's going on.
Yes, I did request my father's and my grandfather's information, and they did send back an acknowledgement that they are working on retrieving the information. So I don't have the complete file, but at least I got an acknowledgement. The unfortunate thing is my mother-in-law's information's not in it, which is weird.
And she served.
She was in the waves. So,
in the waves.
But since she was in the code breaking group that was, hidden, top secret stuff, her stuff may not always show up. But yeah, I've got all I've got her OMPF and everything, but it would have, I was just wanted to see if they had anything else on her, and
you never know.
I may email Alex and see what he has to think about it.
Yeah, I knew you all would be excited to hear from him and get the nitty gritty, because they've been working with this database for a long time, but to make it available, by the way, it's available not only at Reclaim the Records BIRLS.org website. So they have a separate website for that. Let me send that out. But it's also available at, let's see, let's do this. There you go. It's also available at Family Search. So you just never know. Anybody else want to comment before we move on to our next topic? What a day we're having, huh?
The one link that he showed that I couldn't find real quick was where are the C files located on Family Search? They called that something, and I couldn't, just doing U.S. veterans didn't pull it up real quick. So I was wondering if somebody.
I don't know the answer to that, and I think he's already left.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
We'll figure it out.
C files can be in several places. That much I know. Let me pull this back. Get all my ducks in a row.
Well, we'll figure it out. Let's go on, and
we'll go on to the next topic. Okay. All right.
Can I mention something here? Some of the links that Alec put up are 404 errors, because I tried to. Open
they're all returning 404 errors?
Not all of them. The first three, I think.
Okay, so you'll have to tell me where there's a problem so that I can send them out.
Yep. Okay.
And which ones were bad. Thank you for doing that check. That's very helpful. Okay.
I'll tell you, send it to you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hillary. Let's have Hillary up next. Well, and then Randy on AI. Hillary, what's happening right now at Ancestry?
They've just uploaded the 1921 census for England, Wales, the Channel Islands, and the Isle of Man. Scotland is a different one. And so you can now search for people in the 1921 census on Ancestry.
Okay.
One thing I've noticed, though, I've just been having a look while I've been off camera, and you have to have some idea of where they were, because when you do the search and you go into it, it's showing where they are rather than necessarily where their birthplace was.
Okay, I'm locking up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, Randy, be prepared to come on up and help. I'm locking up. Oh, now maybe I'm unlocked.
Your video's still locked. So.
Okay, so you and Randy take over. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I love life.
Yeah.
I can't do anything. Dang.
Right.
Okay, you all keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Right. I think you were going to talk about something, weren't you? You were the next topic. I think. Let's see. AI.
Yeah, but you were going to talk about Ancestry.
Yeah, I have. What I suppose what I could do is go back and share my screen. Let me have a look what Ancestry's up to. I shall go up and I shall go to the card catalogue and show people. I should do a screen share.
Okay, I'm back.
Hmm.
So what happened while I was gone?
Not a lot.
Okay. All right. So we want to go to ancestry.com. Is that the plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And you're at the card catalog.
Yeah. So the card catalogue now, you can go to Channel Islands, Isle of Man, Wales, or England. Now, most of my family were in England, so I tended to have a look on there. And then you can search for the usual search thing. Search by county.
And you have a world subscription to Ancestry, not just a US subscription.
I have a world subscription. I've not just got just the UK, so I've got all of the world one. But I am on the UK site, but I think it should be on the .com as well for people that would have had family in, so everybody can search for them.
Well,
I have searched
at the very least, you can see the complete catalog, regardless of your what level Ancestry membership you are paying for. If you were to, you could see the 1921 in the catalog. And if you were to click, they'd let you know if you needed to ante up for that one. Okay. This is breakthrough. Can you pull up an example?
Yeah.
And we'll take a look at that.
Let's have a look for this person, although I think she might have been married by then, because this is somebody that was in my tree.
Those are all the categories. Wow. Can we see actual document?
Yeah, let's just have a look.
Okay. There we go.
Right. Oh, here she is.
Yeah.
She's actually the first one on the top. So.
Okay. I love looking at the real documents because I think that just helps us so much. Can you zoom way in and we'll look at the column headings? So obviously they have their name, their relationship to head of household, their age in years and months, their sex. Somebody's both alive, meaning both the parents are alive. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because Violet was the daughter of these two people.
Can you scroll up just a bit so we can see more of the heading? Yeah.
Yeah.
If
they were children, if they were of school age, I think it was, under 15, they had to put whether they were alive or not. Because obviously there would have been quite a few that were didn't have fathers, because this was post the First World War.
Yeah. And let's go some more to the right so we can see some of the other columns. Boy, I wish everybody's handwriting was that neat. Yeah. Working the whole time, carpenter, home duties, yes. And
the whole time for
yeah.
school. So some of them may have only been part-time at school, so it's whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Then
And
it
if
tells
working
you who
for an
they work
employer and give an address
and
for each
obviously
place
as
of
a
work.
builder. They would
Well,
put
yeah,
a
you
fixed
work
place
on
if they
different jobs.
yeah.
Okay,
And
now
then
this is interesting.
how many children
Phone
they
number.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you might actually you could actually find here for each child they had to say how old the children were. Well, this is only one, they've only got one child, but if they had more children, then they could put the fill it in for all the children. And that a lot of the time it didn't get filled in correctly. But what they haven't got on this is they haven't got the address, because that is actually on a second one. If I go to the next screen, there's a huge sheet with lots of information on it about how they should fill in and whatever.
Oh,
but
you
also
need that. Yeah, you need that for your
that tells
citation.
you where they were living.
Wonderful. Okay.
And then the next page will be the next thing. On the Find My Past one, they do provide maps and things which are quite good, which at the moment I don't think there's any
no link
maps
to a
on
map.
Ancestry. Yeah.
Okay, that's important to know, folks.
If you're not familiar with the area, sometimes it's worth having the maps, because they're sort of maps of that time. So
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Hillary. I appreciate that. And by the way, Sherry, thank you for working on the YouTube side there with Melinda. You can search the catalog on a free account as well. That makes absolute sense. No point in hiding why people would want to join Ancestry or Find My Past or whatever website we're talking about. Okay, shall we switch gears and talk with our Randy? And I'm going to remove this. We're going to pull up your blog post. You want to talk about AI?
I could talk for hours, I think.
I know.
But this is just one post that I recently did.
Okay, I'm pulling it up 1 second.
I'll
share my screen.
YouTube also. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Almost there. Had to get all my ducks back in a row.
As you know, I've been asking a lot of questions of AI tools. And on Saturday, this last Saturday, I asked, what are the future trends for AI tools in genealogy research and family history? And I asked a number of the tools, and all I'm using is free at this point. And I got responses that were fairly similar. And we have to understand that the AI tools can't predict the future, but they can refer to others who can predict the future. And so what I got was basically data information from websites that have said what's in the future. Okay. So I made a neat graphic. But my prompt was, you're an expert genealogist and AI guru. What are the future trends in AI-driven tools for research and family history? And I got a long response. That I did this on GenSpark, because I did it 3 months ago on GenSpark and got a different answer. And so let's not go through all that, but scroll down to what I think is really neat. All the words are great. and they're over my head in some cases.
Like predictive analytics.
Yeah, so it's gathering information from information that it has. GenSpark is one of those agents that will search the web. That's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
So without me asking, it provided a mind map. And basically the mind map is on the left, my question,
Mhm.
on in the middle is the list of highlighted points, the major points, and then the sub points and the sub points of that. And
Mhm.
and when you do it online, the rightmost answers lines will have a link on the far right of each line to get more, to get the subhead, the sub data for each one of those little guys. So that I think is wonderful.
So that's why I liked Perplexity, because it would give you a link based on where it had drawn the information.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go back to the blog post.
Okay.
And go.
All right.
Yeah, and then further down. So I did one more step, and so.
And here's where
I found that ChatGPT could also do a mind map. I had to ask for it, and it wouldn't let me go, a sub step. But there, in the text above, there were 12 links to resources, and so I just listed all the links there. Some of those are new to me. I've seen some of them. I haven't seen some of them, and that's the beauty of this. At this point in time, using AI to search on Perplexity and GenSpark and Copilot, and now ChatGPT has a search link, even on the free side, that will search for things if you ask it to. So I thought initially that was impressive. I was kind of blown away, and then I found that it's not unusual. But GenSpark creates the mind map for any prompt, but they're really just a visual representation with one-line summaries of each bullet point in a feature, aren't they?
Is that my phone or your phone?
My phone in my pocket. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it went away. Good.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I had a missed call as well. They must be doing a group call to you and me.
Who knows? Anyway,
what a coincidence.
AI is growing exponentially. We all know that. Steve and Mark just had their 20th podcast.
Yes.
With information about what's coming.
Yes.
And what's happened, and consequently, those are each very useful. I'd encourage you, if you're interested in this, they are calling again.
Okay.
I
so
can't.
What we'll do, first of all, we have brought people to this. I'm going to let you answer your phone. It's urgent, apparently.
I don't know.
And what we'll do, I think he did a good job, folks, don't you? Let me remove him from the, put him in the links. What Randy did was start thinking about future things. Remember, he is our AI experimenter extraordinaire. And we need to get the link for the Family History AI Show podcast. And Betty Lou says, I wish my mind was still as functioning as Randy's. Yeah, and Karen said that's their best podcast to date. Let me see if I have that list. Folks, this is how I organize my Mondays with Myrt topics, and top AI recommendations. I don't think it's that one. Yeah, this one particular is, am I sharing my screen? I can't tell. Yes. This is, you've noticed that Randy discussed a number of AI tools. Here we have Steve Little and Mark Thompson sharing in their podcast the top AI tools to use in their estimation. And remember, they're genealogy nuts as well. I'm going to click there. It will take me, come on, won't take me there. Have I locked up again? Darn. I have locked up again. Honey, would you turn off your computer?
Randy's not available either, so we'll need when he gets back and Myrt gets back, we'll hopefully just carry on.
I'm so sorry, folks. Oh, so frustrating. Okay, so what's happening while I was gone this time? I apologize.
Oh, I just came in and said that Randy wasn't around either, so we didn't do a lot.
Yeah, we both had challenges.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Here we are. I'm going to share my screen because I apparently had trouble when I went to get to share my screen for the Family History AI show. And I want you to see
if I can find it.
I got it.
All right.
Here's the link. This is their website. Let's go to the total website. This is the Making Family History. I'll send it out. And their recent blog posts are found there as well. You want to watch them every week if what you want to do is figure out how to use AI. I received an email this morning. I don't know if you all did. From Family Search. There was a problem this weekend that people noticed, and it was that the full text search was not available. And this came up in the Genealogy Squad Facebook group. And finally, Drew Smith said, I'm sure it's not going away. They spent a lot of time and energy and money investigating how to do this technology. And sure enough, in the email I received this morning from Family Search, they stated the full text search is going to become even more robust. I know that there's over 4,000 record sets that are included in that right now. They're going to also be spending more time using machine interpretation, or the part where you take the handwriting and you analyze it and get it into text and then make something from that text. So it's sort of what Transcribus does. All right, let's pull everybody up on the panel so I don't feel so alone. Thank you. And I'm going to go back to the schedule and see what's next. I think our time is short, and
Got 10 minutes.
Yeah, we're at the 10-minute mark. And so I need to explain what's going to happen with book club. Okay. And I also need to do the drawing. And before we do that, here's the link. Before we do that, take 3 minutes, panelists. Give me your 2025 goal in your genealogy research. Give me 4 or 5 sentences. Hillary, you call on people while I get oriented and get the giveaway working again. And then I'll explain how book club will work.
Right. I will start. I'm trying to organize a lot of my matches of matches to see if I can get a bit further with my DNA. Ellen?
Prove out my tree using DNA. I think I have, but I don't really have it any way of showing it. And I also want to do bios for all of my grandfathers, great grandparents, and so on.
And who's that? Pat?
I think I like that idea of the bios. I really do think I need to take my grandparents, my great grandparents, and try to sort them out for one thing and get something physically written about them.
Dave?
Well, I'm in the process of moving my office from the basement to upstairs, and I've got a major project in getting rid of quite a few of the books that I've collected that I no longer need or are now irrelevant to me. So I'm going to be donating all of that to the local library and see if they need them or want them. If they need them, they'll keep them. If they don't want them, they're going to put them in a book sale. But that's my big project, is organizing my office. Right now it's just a major disaster, which is why I use a backdrop. You don't need to see what's going on back there.
When you get done with that, Dave, you can come over and help Mr. Myrt.
Melinda?
Yeah, Hillary.
Yeah.
Melinda's up next. Oh, you muted Melinda.
She may not be on mic. I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, she's muted herself.
There you go. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm working on direct line ancestor story.
Okay.
Okay.
She's got issues with video and sound together. And Dan?
Yeah.
My goal for 2025 is to write more stories and share more stories of my ancestors. I recently started a Substack, which I've got a lot of my family members signed up for over the holidays. So now I have an audience of people who are interested in learning about their ancestors as well. So my goal is just to document more kind of mid and longer form stories of my ancestors.
Okay, so, and did Pat get to talk? Because I wasn't listening to every single, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody has. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Hillary, thanks for hosting that part as well. What I'd like to do now is explain to you what's going to happen with book club and how we're going to do it. And why is because we want to learn more this year. First of all, you'll notice when you go to Dear Myrtle Archive at YouTube, which is where all my live streams are, somebody capture Linda Stufflebean's request because she wants to know what the heck Substack is. And add that to our list in our secret panelist group, because that's a good idea. All right. Not going to get waylaid. Let's go forward. You'll notice that I always have 2 episodes of Mondays with Myrt up here under live that are pending. Like we're in this live one right now for January 6th, and I already have the one for January 20th there. The only time I won't have 2 pending is immediately after this show. I won't have yet put it up for 2 weeks after the 20th of January. But you'll also see there's 2 upcoming book clubs. One for the 6th, which is book club number 1. And then we will actually have this occurring after a 15-minute break between Mondays with Myrt. I will exit this StreamYard. I will go open up the green room for book club, which is this one, Observing Copyright, scheduled for the 6th. I don't know if you can see that very well. Can you see it okay, guys? Oh, I'm zooming in on the wrong screen. There you go. All right. This is the one you'll need to click on if you would like to come to book club. What are we doing with book club? Let me show you. Oh, dear. I love life. Don't you just love it? All right, so there are 2 ways to participate in book club, just like we do on Mondays with Myrt. It's a matter of you can be an attendee on the YouTube side, and you can comment during the live program, and the video recording and the transcript of the recording automatically appears as soon as we conclude the discussion. Same as with Mondays with Myrt. except it's book club. Panelists can join, they'll join me just like my Mondays with Myrt panelists do. And if you would like to be a panelist, here's the link to join or to request to join as a panelist. And what I'll do is go through and get a smattering of people. Right now, the only person that's filled out the form, and it was a good test run of the form, was my good friend Maria, my neighbor from the South Jordan house. And she's also moved away from the neighborhood. So if nothing more than just Maria and I discussing a chapter or two, that's what we will be doing. Remember that book club is totally volunteer driven, and that's important. That's why we're not charging to participate. And there are very detailed study groups of the books that we're planning to tackle this year. And the first one is Mastering Genealogical Proof. We're not using the samples in this book by Dr. Thomas W. Jones. We will take principle that he may discuss in this chapter. We may have 2 or 3 chapters that we just refer to briefly during our 30 to 40 minute book club twice a month, just like Mondays with Myrt. And that will be examples from our own research. This will not be as detailed as the study groups that old Myrt did when Cousin Russ was my co-host. Those went on for 90 minutes. They were very detailed. I want to give you a little bit of insight as to the topics that are handled in this book. Yes, you need the book. You got to have this book because there's good thinking going on in this book. It will stimulate your research mind and help you make progress in that regard. But I'm pushing you toward joining one of the dedicated pay to participate study groups that professional genealogists elsewhere are providing. Yeah. Oh, interesting. And so our first meeting, I'm going to be explaining this in more detail. If you would like to participate as a prospective panelist, remember, I'm not looking for the most experienced genealogist. We could have a couple of beginners. We could have a very experienced researcher like Maria. Different points of view can kind of, turn the light bulb on in our brains. If old Myrt could do it all, or Randy could do it all, or Hillary or any of my panelists, then they would be doing solos. But it's a discussion that helps us learn together and think of things in perhaps a slightly different way than we normally would. Our first 2 book titles are both by Dr. Jones, but today my giveaway is going to be Mastering Genealogical Proof. And one of the persons that wrote to me, there were 2 people that won it in December, and the second one didn't get back to me and give me her snail mail address so that I could mail it. She wanted the paper copy. So I think her name was Kathleen. I did respond and give her an email. But let's go see if we can come up with the giveaway tool. Let me find it. This is your chance to type in hashtag Mondays with Myrt, because that's how the giveaway tool works. Okay, and we are in the live, and it is this hashtag. Okay, I had to set up. Man, nothing like getting bumped out twice in one episode. Okay, so everybody needs to put the link in again, or the hashtag in again. I am so sorry, because right now there's only one entry. So type it in again, guys. Now we have 2. Yeah. Just copy and paste it. All right. Thank you, Sean. Keep going. We have 4 entries so far. Okay, and panelists, thank you so much for being here today. We had a tumultuous time trying to keep old Myrt going here. There was that comment about Substack, and that was something I'm going to be discussing with the Puget Sound Area Association of Professional Genealogists later this month. It's part of your social media outreach. But a fellow panelist who took a leave of absence to finish some more schooling. We have 11. There's more. There's 42 of you watching right now. Type in hashtag Cindy. You have to put the # in front of the Mondays with Myrt part. Yes, thank you, Melinda, for letting her know. Oh, golly. If you already have the book, then probably you could enter it and tell me you want genealogical documentation. That's what we're tackling next. And by the way, let me show you while you're typing in your hashtags what it looks like as far as our topics. Okay. I was figuring out my calendar for the year for Mondays with Myrt, but these are how we are tackling the first few chapters of all the chapters of this particular book by Dr. Jones. So this first week will be our first time getting over to the other recording, to the other discussion. Then we are going next on the 20th. We'll be talking about chapters 1 and 2. So obviously we're just hitting 1 or 2 high points, period, to encourage you. Then 3 and 4. It really gets tricky later because in May we're going to be discussing items from 4 different chapters of the documentation book. Okay, let's see how we're doing on the StreamYard giveaway tool. Okay, I have 16 entries. Let's get some more in there. I'll give away either book, and I will give it either in Kindle format or in paperback format. And you don't need a Kindle in order to use the Kindle version of the books. You can download it for your Droid, for your Mac or PC, for your tablet. I don't recommend on your phone. One of the nice things, though, about using the Kindle app is you can do an every word search. Okay, you have to have the whole Mondays with Myrt, Carol. And there you go, Dan. Okay, one more try, one more call. All right, let me find it. Okay, we're up to 19 people. And I'm going to go ahead and draw. Let's see if Carol got a chance. She did it. Okay. Let's see who wins. Paula Collins. So Paula, you need to write to me, Dear Myrtle. I'm going to type it in here, dearmyrtle@gmail.com. And yeah, there you go. Let me know if you want the Kindle version, the paperback version. If you are not in the US, I will have to send you the equivalent money in a gift card from Amazon or through Venmo or PayPal. So we'll have to have a conversation. Congratulations, Paula. Okay, well, we did it. I did send a bunch of links to the screen, you may have noticed, that were our lightning round links, such as the genealogy guys are moving all of their videos and future videos from their learning department over at Family Tree Webinars. So from their own website to Family Tree Webinars. Yeah, all kinds of things. Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy with today's program, and I apologize for my internet, but we really love our island home. Nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.